You're watching Truth versus Hype. The Robert Vadra DLF controversy has predictably degenerated into a political slugfest. But that is not our lookout here on the show. We are using Arvind Kejriwal's allegations as a starting point for our own independent investigation into the business dealings of Sonia Gandhi's son-in-law. Is his meteoric rise above board, or, as it's been alleged, is it because of special favors, cronyism and quid pro quo? Until 5 years ago, Robert Vadra's official business was described as crafts exports, running a company called Artex. But in 2007, he plunged into real estate, and to help him right from the start was one of India's biggest real estate giants. Vadra's first purchase of 3.5 acres of land in Shikhopur village in Gurgaon in 2007 for 15 crores was partly funded by DLF and partly by a loan from the state-run Corporation Bank, which gave him an overdraft of almost 8 crore rupees. Some are questioning that should a state-run bank or a nationalized bank be giving 8 crores to somebody as an overdraft who has barely any amount on his balance sheet? Is that loan itself questionable, do you think?
I think it certainly is, because these are not the kind of terms that would be given to individuals like you and me. So what I was trying to say is that even in the 2G scam, banking transgressions from the banking sector have been a part of that model as well.
To make matters even more controversial, Corporation Bank now says that they gave no such overdraft to Robert Vadra, raising questions as to how that 7.94 crores is shown in his books against their name. After Corporation Bank and DLF, the next helping hand for Robert Vadra to acquire the Manesar land comes from the Haryana government.
The Congress state government in Haryana cleared his application, converting the land use from agricultural to commercial. And within a year, DLF bought the land from him at 3 times the amount of 58 crores.
DLF has defended the high price of the land, saying it's because it had been converted from agricultural land to commercial land, which begs the question, if Vadra could convert it, why couldn't DLF? In its defense, DLF says that because if they buy land directly from farmers, it will jack up the prices, which is why they acquire land using a network of land aggregators like Vadra. In fact, responding to charges that they favored Vadra by giving him an advance, DLF points out that they give such advances all the time. In 2011, they spent more than 5,000 crores paying land aggregators.
If the value of the land was 60 crores as aggregated, and that's very important, because what I learned from the DLF DLF's reply was that this was aggregated land. Now you know the real secret of development in India, be it the builders in Bombay, be it the town makers in Bombay, be it your Hiranandani, your Lokhandwalas, your whoever, your Lodas, or be it in Delhi, be it your DLF, your Unitech. 9 points of the game is being able to acquire contiguous pieces of land and then getting it compacted and getting permission.
While giving these advances might be common practice, the manner in which DLF made the payments is unusual. They held off paying the final amount to him for the longest time. DLF says because they were paying him in installments as he procured each clearance. But others say it was to give Vadra a tax break. Now, this land is on his books as recently as last year. It is only finally on DLF's books, according to DLF, in May of this year. Now, why did DLF hold off paying him the final installment for so long? Is it because it would avail of him tax benefits? Was that the real reason?
That is what people suspect, because capital gains tax comes in immediately.
Right. So by not giving him the final installment, he doesn't have to pay capital gains tax, and he can use the advance they've given him of 50 crores to make other investments.
Exactly.
And invest it he did right back into DLF. A bulk of Vadra's 50 crores, a sum of 35 crores, goes into investing in DLF's troubled Saket Hilton Hotel.
Robert Vadra acquired a 50% stake here for 35 crore rupees, an amount that Arvind Kejriwal finds undervalued. But actually this amount is not far off the mark for a loss-making hotel, half of whose value as a business proposition is debt. But the value of this place as a piece of prime real estate is much more. And that is what probably prompted Robert Vadra to become its part owner.
Vadra's balance sheets show that his next investment is 5 crores for 7 flats in DLF's high-end Magnolia apartments. Arvind Kejriwal alleged that this was impossible since the market value of each flat itself was over 5 crores.
और मैग्नोलियाज कहते हैं जी हमने तो इनको 10,000 रुपए स्क्वायर फुट पे बेचा था। 10,000 स्क्वायर फुट के हिसाब से तो एक फ्लैट की कीमत ही 5 करोड़ आती है, जबकि इन्होंने तो 7 फ्लैट बेचे हैं।
NDTV has learned that Vadra was not just buying these flats but in fact trading in them. Details made available to NDTV confirm that his investments in DLF properties were in fact much higher than what was alleged by Kejriwal. For instance, the 5 crore rupees that was paid by Vadra to DLF was towards buying not just 7 but in fact 15 apartments in the complex called the Magnolias, where DLF does not even allow trading. Owners are only allowed to give the apartments back to DLF. An exception was made for Vadra and DLF decided to buy back as many as 13 of those apartments at a much higher rate. Vadra also made a profit of about 4 to 5 crore rupees on giving these apartments back to DLF. This despite the fact that he was charged interest for delayed payments. He still holds 2 of those apartments worth about 13 crores each.
Vadra then spends another 5 crores booking flats in another DLF property, Capital Greens in West Delhi.
DLF allows trading in this property and Robert Vadra had bought around 25 flats in DLF Capital Greens. But by March 2011, he had sold all his flats, again making a huge profit. The exact amount not yet known.
In the same year, Vadra's balance sheets show that he had bought a 10,000 square foot penthouse in DLF's super luxury Aralia's apartment complex in Gurgaon for only 89 lakhs, 10 times less than the market value, which again led to charges of favoritism.
अरालिया का जो अपार्टमेंट है जो रॉबर्ट वाद्रा जी अपने खुद के इस्तेमाल के लिए, ये कहते हैं कि ये अपार्टमेंट जो है ये तो इनकी बैलेंस शीट के हिसाब से ये 89 लाख में लिया गया है। ये कहते हैं नहीं 89 लाख में नहीं लिया, हमने तो 11 करोड़ का दिया इनको।
However, Kejriwal had produced an older balance sheet of 2009-2010. Vadra's next year balance sheets show that he did pay the full amount of 11 crores. This made possible by profits he made by trading other DLF flats. Today, the same Aralia's property is almost worth 30 crores.
And while this demonstrates the weaknesses of Team Kejriwal's research, the fact is that Robert Vadra has benefited hugely from his association with DLF. They advance him an initial loan with which he buys a plot of land. They buy the same plot back from him at 3 times the price. And then, this is what happens when he invests that money, again, all in DLF assets. Today, his combined worth, if you combine his investments in hotels, in apartment trading, and lands that he's bought, the net worth is at least, at the very minimum, 200 crore rupees. Not bad for somebody who started off with barely an initial investment of 10 lakh rupees. Now that is a business model that anybody would envy. So Vadra had the benevolence of DLF. But what of political benevolence that may have helped him along the way?
Real estate clearances involve the highest level of political discretion, but this can be very difficult to prove. We discovered this when we set out to find whether the Congress-run Haryana government favoured Robert Vadra by clearing his application for change of land use for his Manesar land, the land that ultimately became the game changer in his fortune. We visited the offices of the Manesar Tehsildar, the Haryana State Industrial and Infrastructure Development Corporation, and other government offices in Gurgaon, but we could not come up with any answers.
This much is clear. Vadra's land buying spree is all in Congress-run states, Haryana, Rajasthan, Delhi. In at least 2 states, he used the same frontman, Mahesh Nagar, a man with Congress connections. Nagar's brother is ex-Congress MLA Lalit Nagar, whose association with Vadra seems to have helped his career. Lalit's posters are all over the villages of Faridabad in Haryana, where Vadra is said to have acquired 400 acres of land. But today, it's not a deal that Lalit Nagar wants to talk about.
It's widely known here in the village of Amirpur, in fact in several villages across this area, that Robert Vadra acquired approximately 400 acres of land here in 2007. This with the help of a local Congress leader, Lalit Nagar, and his brother Mahesh Nagar. But today, not a single person is ready to talk to us about it.
Mahesh Nagar also acquired almost 300 acres of land for Vadra here, thousands of miles away in Bikaner in Rajasthan.
The Bikaner land that he is buying is wasteland, and as the site of an emerging solar energy hub, it's drawing many other speculators. But Vadra's purchases start just 3 months after Ashok Gehlot comes to power. The solar energy thrust here is being overseen by the centre's Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Energy Mission. And the stone markers of Vadra's land are painted in Congress colours.
Is it a correct business practice on the part of DLF to advance unsecured loan when the company itself is under debt? Is it a correct practice on the part of Haryana government to treat DLF the way it did? And is it political morality on the part of the most powerful family in this country to get into business which is dubious at best?
That's the last point is where I'll come to that in a second, and I think that is certainly, I mean, in my view, indisputable, that there's a huge conflict of interest when someone who's as politically connected as Robert Vadra enters something like real estate, which, as we know, has high levels of political discretion, and black money and so on.
And that too in 3 states where their party is ruling, Rajasthan, Haryana.
That's right. That's where he picks up most of his properties, and that's the huge conflict of interest area.
To get answers to any of this from Robert Vadra is almost an impossible task. We have come to this address here in South Delhi where all his companies are registered. We have handed out detailed questions, but the answer every time has been the same. Mr. Vadra is not available.
Next, on Truth versus Hype, DLF made Vadra very rich. But how true is the allegation that the Vadra Association benefited DLF? Welcome back. We have seen how DLF's helping hand led to the rapid prosperity of Robert Vadra. But did Vadra help DLF?
That accusation is centered around 2 projects. The first, a 350-acre golf course and apartment complex in Gurgaon's Wazirabad village. In response to the charges that it twisted rules to ensure that DLF got the bid, the state government came up with a lengthy response.
But those responses, as we found, are full of loopholes. Much before Kejriwal got into the picture, these farmers from Haryana were leading protests against the project. The project's location itself right next to DLF's golf course in Wazirabad. Locals have raised questions about how land acquired from them by Haryana's Urban Development Authority was added to this project. They say that HUDA land is meant for low-cost government housing, not private high-end apartments.
हमारे यहाँ पे 350 एकड़ लैंड जो है वो गांव की जमीन एक्वायर करके और ये DLF को दे दी गई। आज हमारे गांव में जो कोई गरीब लोग है या कोई अल्प से वो है अनुसूचित जाति जनजाति के हैं तो उनके लिए अगर कोई प्लॉट देना चाहे गवर्नमेंट वो देना चाहे तो वो भी नहीं देने के बजाय वो जमीन DLF को दे दी गई है, जबकि वो पंचायती जमीन थी उसके अंदर उनको कोई प्लॉट वगैरह दिए जा सकते हैं और गांव की सुविधा के लिए यहाँ पे कोई भी चीज बनाई जा सकती थी जैसे कम्युनिटी सेंटर है, स्टेडियम है या और भी कोई चीज है।
The next allegation pertains to the bidding process. The government says that the bidding was conducted by an international bidding firm. They said that in the first round only DLF applied for the bids. But since that made it invalid, the government went in for the second round of bids.
But they did add DLF's suggestion that the state would get all the requisite environmental clearances since the project was on forest land.
it would have been far easier for us at that time to accept that single bid itself. One could have accepted the single bid at the time of first international competitive bidding only. But that particular single bid was not accepted. The single bid was not accepted, and again there was a bid. Now the question is that the committee and the government also went into the reasons. After all, if this project is so lucrative, why the people are not coming for it? You see, after all, if it is so lucrative and it is being given at a throwaway prices, then why people are not coming for it? So there must be some reason, because there must be some reasons why the bidders are not coming for this project.
The state acted on that and went to the Supreme Court's committee to get the clearances. And though they only got a partial go-ahead, they still went ahead with the project. 2 other bids were received for the project, but the opposition alleged they are dummy bids. One of them, Country Heights Holdings from Malaysia, with a tie-up with Peckenwood Golf and Country Club, had a loss in its book of 24 lakhs. The other bidder, Unitech, in collaboration with Golden Green Golf Resorts, again had a loss.
दोबारा फिर बिडिंग होती है. बिडिंग में 3 बिडर्स आते हैं और 2 बिडर जो हैं उनका वो कहीं भी कंटेस्ट नहीं करते हैं अपनी केस को. ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे डमी बिडर बीच में डाले गए हों और वो कंटेस्ट नहीं करते हैं और 1700 करोड़ रुपए में जमीन दे देते हैं.
Finally, in August of this year, the Punjab and Haryana High Court, petitioned by the farmers, stayed the project. The other accusation of favours is over this DLF SEZ coming up in Silokhri in Gurgaon. It was bought in the 80s by the Oberoi Hotel Group to build a hospital, a nursing home and a training institute.
For years, the Oberois did nothing on the land, and finally, after a legal tussle with the state government, sold it to DLF in 2006, who set up an SEZ, a decision challenged in court.
Locals say the state shouldn't have given permission for the SEZ for land that was acquired for public purpose.
ओबराय होटल बना रहा था चार अपना नहीं बना.
फिर अभी
अब DLF साइन दे दी उन्होंने ओबराय ने. हाँ गलत ही हुआ. ओबराय ने वो जैसे रिलीज करवाई थी तो हॉस्पिटल बनाना था.
They went to the High Court, which asked for the SEZ to be demolished, saying that the land in question was acquired on the pretext of public purpose with the real object of handing it over to DLF. The state and its officers are tilted in showering favours on DLF. But the Supreme Court has stayed the High Court order. There is no proof to suggest that the Haryana government's enthusiasm to assign these projects to DLF is because of DLF's links to Robert Vadra. But it only exposes the maze of conflicts of interest when a politically connected person like Vadra enters the real estate business. Now, some might argue that it's not uncommon for sons or son-in-laws of political families to want to cash in on India's realty boom. But then, Robert Vadra is no ordinary son-in-law.